The new Pope is Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost.
Brace yourself for goosebumps delivered by Pope Leo the 14th, though the thrill may strike from an angle you never saw coming. When the revered Pope Francis breathed his last in April 2025, a tidal wave of grief swept through every parish, yet out of that sorrow rose a successor as surprising as thunder on a clear day. Leo the First, a man whose rapid-fire gestures now jolt the faithful like static crackling on polished pews. His debut blessing arced across St. Peter's Square, cell phone flashlights glittered like stars, and rumors ignited that heaven had selected a pontiff eager to shake centuries of dust from Vatican marble, which early moves transformed wary curiosity into scorching fascination. And will these sparks prove the conclave's gamble divine? Let's rewind every sizzling heartbeat inside St. Peter's Basilica that has believers buzzing. The final stanza of Pope Francis's gentle reign unfolded in the hushed corridors of the Domus Sanctae Marthae, his death announced by a trembling Cardinal Kevin Farrell, whose voice cracked with raw sorrow. Across 5 continents, church bells tolled, street altars bloomed with lilies, and social feeds flooded with digital rosaries, living proof of how deeply Francis's humility had seeped into daily life. To replace such a towering shepherd felt almost sacrilegious, yet the ancient gears of succession clanked forward, and 133 crimson-clad cardinals shouldered the nearly impossible burden of choosing a worthy heir. On the 7th of May, 2025, the Sistine Chapel's monumental oak doors groaned shut, sealing the electors beneath Michelangelo's Technicolor ceiling. Swiss guards confiscated smartphones, jammed signals, and posted watch, while a medieval oath of secrecy hung thicker than incense, muffling even tourist chatter beyond the velvet ropes. Hour after hour, parchment ballots fluttered like moth wings, Latin prayers hummed along golden cornices, and candlelight trembled over faces that knew the planet was holding its breath. Outside, pilgrims slept on cobblestones, replaying a ritual older than most nations, eyes fixed on a humble copper pipe. At 6:43 p.m. on the 8th of May, a gush of billowing white smoke curled into the pastel Roman sky, and the square exploded in a single cavernous roar. Every bell, drum, and trumpet in Italy seemed to join the chorus. Moments later, crimson curtains rippled, and the cardinal protodeacon proclaimed, "Habemus Papam," meaning we have a new pope. 3 Latin words that detonated pure joy across the globe. Euphoria collided with shock. The chosen name, Robert Francis Provost of Chicago, rocketed through news tickers, podcasts, and meme accounts with dizzying velocity. For 2,000 years, the throne of Peter had never seated an American, and speculation mushroomed. Was this holy diplomacy? A secret pledge for reform? A daring nod to global Catholic demographics? As comment threads flared, Pope Leo I stepped onto the balcony and stunned cynics with a trilingual blessing that pivoted into Quechua, teasing the Andean mission work that had carved his soul. In a lightning stroke, he looked radically new, yet unmistakably rooted. Digging into his lineage reveals a man marinated in diversity. Born 14 September 1955 at Mercy Hospital on Chicago's South Side, Robert was the youngest of 3 rowdy brothers, forever chasing the feats of Louis Martin and John Joseph. His mother, Mildred Agnes Provost, carried vibrant Louisiana Creole ancestry from New Orleans' 7th Ward, while his father, war hero Salvatore Riotano, embodied Italian tenacity and French lyricism. Gumbo, pasta, and Gregorian chant mingled at one dinner table, priming young Robert to feel at home in chapels from Africa to the Andes. Books rivaled toys in the Provost household, thanks to Mildred's job as librarian at Mendel Catholic High. Robert devoured saints' biographies as if they were action comics, awestruck by martyrs who toppled empires with prayer. Meanwhile, his father's World War II sea tales, salt spray nights off Normandy, tracer fire over Provence, etched a code of bravery that blended seamlessly with the Beatitudes. Shielded from battle, yet surrounded by duty, Robert immersed himself in St. Mary of the Assumption Parish, where soaring descants, swirling incense, and polished brass captured his heart. Sunday service alone couldn't contain him. The family coffee table became a pop-up altar where little Robert reenacted the Mass for amused siblings. He'd declare, "I'll study and prepare myself, and someday my chance will come." Sometimes he even acted the Mass at home, using his brothers as a representation of his congregation. Those living room sermons turned his call from whisper to thunderclap, convincing relatives that a future priest was already pacing their parquet floor. At 14, he entered St. Augustine Seminary High in Michigan, a Gothic campus draped in Latin chants and autumn leaves. While classmates flirted or practiced jump shots, Robert inhaled Aquinas, scribbled essays on Augustine, and skipped homecomings to debate grace with professors. A special priesthood track welcomed 12 eager students. By senior year, attrition claimed 11, leaving Robert alone in a collar of determination steeled by solitude and scripture. On the 1st of September 1977, his true novitiate began at Immaculate Conception Church in St. Louis's Central West End, a neighborhood where jazz riffs floated through stained glass windows. After a contemplative year, he spent a summer in Minneapolis hospitals, comforting patients whose monitors beeped like subdued metronomes. First vows followed in Chicago on the 2nd of September 1978, solemn vows on the 29th of August 1981, and ordinations arrived in a blur. Deacon that September in Michigan, priest on the 19th of June, 1982 at Rome's ancient Sant'Agostino. Meteoric doesn't begin to cover it. A restless spirit pushed Father Provost to Peru in 1985, landing him amid soaring Andes where mass bells echoed off snow-capped ridges. As Chancellor of Chiricanas, he juggled land deeds, baptism registers, and midnight sick calls, yet still carved out time to craft a 300-page thesis on ecclesial governance that wowed professors in 1987. Leadership stints in Illinois and Wisconsin peppered his resume, but by 1988, the Andes lured him back, now as rector of Trujillo's Augustinian Seminary, teaching canon law with courtroom theatrics. Peru forged his activist streak. When Venezuelan migrants streamed south, he turned parish kitchens into industrial food lines and persuaded wary locals to help, scandalizing nationalists yet earning street corner applause. Even bolder, he condemned President Alberto Fujimori's iron-fisted tactics, warning that torture and graft poisoned Peru's soul. Newspapers splashed his homilies on front pages, generals bristled, and pews overflowed with citizens hungry for fearless truth. One avid reader sat in Rome, Pope Francis. Their friendship blossomed over late-night mate tea during synods, and on 30th January 2023, Francis named Provost Prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, essentially the Vatican's talent scout. Overnight, he traded jungle paths for mahogany boardrooms, yet insisted on frequent returns to dusty barrios, telling aides spreadsheets meant nothing if he forgot the smell of sheep. That blend of policy savvy and pastoral grit made him the conclave's dark horse darling long before reporters learned his name. Now, as Pope Leo XIV, he wields a paradox, Francis's tender mercy fused with a crackling populist energy all his own. He quotes encyclicals, yet fist bumps altar servers, swaps scripted diplomat banter for impromptu pleas against human trafficking, and turned his first Angelus into a bilingual rally against global indifference. Traditionalists mutter, progressives cheer, skeptics binge refresh news feeds, waiting for a misstep, but one fact rings clear. Leonine thunder has rolled into the Vatican and the world spellbound. Can't look away. Whether Leo steadies the bark of Peter or rocks it with fresh waves remains the cliffhanger mesmerizing pews and parliaments alike. Even critics admit he has reignited curiosity from palace corridors to village verandas, a feat many popes never achieve. The next chapter could reveal miracles or missteps, alliances or anathemas, but for now the faithful hold their breath, because with Pope Leo I at the helm, every dawn promises another jolt of holy electricity. His brand new Vatican appointment yanked Robert Provost back to Rome, planting him only a stone's throw from the Sistine Chapel's glimmering chimney and the soaring dome of St. Peter's Basilica. In late 2024, he boxed up decades of Chicago memories, traded Lake Michigan winds for Roman sun, and rented a narrow fourth-floor walk-up in the Prati district, a neighborhood dotted with lawyers, trattorias, and, crucially, a weight room where priests, nuns, and off-duty Swiss guards pump iron. Parishioners were shocked to see the future pontiff bench pressing alongside them, yet that daily sweat became living proof of how far he was willing to stretch himself for the church. Pope Francis, delighted by such gritty devotion, wasted no time in granting him the scarlet biretta and the deaconry of Santa Monica de Sant'Agostino, hurling Provost's quiet life into the center of Catholic power with one dramatic flourish. That crimson trim shattered Provost's cherished anonymity. As prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, he now sifted dossiers from every continent, interviewed candidates via secure video link, and jetted to dioceses in crisis, sometimes logging more miles than commercial pilots. His signature green pen highlighted virtues, flagged scandals, and ultimately shaped the leadership of flocks from Soweto to Saskatchewan. Cameras chased him across Bernini's colonnades. Rome's taxi drivers learned his face, and bishops who once ignored his emails suddenly lined up for audience. By October, his workload multiplied yet again. Francis named him to 7 additional dicasteries and fast-tracked him onto the Pontifical Commission for the Vatican City-State, a jump so spectacular it left even seasoned curial veterans blinking in disbelief. Visibility, however, invites venom. Gossip ricocheted beneath gilded ceilings that favoritism had seeped into the papacy like rainwater through cracked stone. Elder cardinals complained over espresso that Provost walked corridors still slick with the Holy Father's fast-track oil. Instead of cowering, Francis detonated another promotion. On 6 February 2025, he vaulted Provost to Cardinal Bishop, the highest rank short of Pope, and assigned him the Suburbicarian See of Albano, a diocese whose volcanic hills once sheltered exiled emperors and wandering saints. Applause rippled through Renaissance courtyards, yet Provost felt the cold steel of side-eye glances as if he were forever Robin to Francis's Batman. Yet the very promotions that dazzled outsiders hardened skeptics inside the palace of Sixtus V. A senior canonist was overheard muttering that Rome now has its own corporate fast-track program, while a retired ambassador quipped the Curia was turning into a holy Silicon Valley for protégés. Flyers slipped under office doors caricatured Provost in comic book tights clutching Francis's cape, and although officials confiscated the drawings, the sting lingered. Even Provost's dawn strolls across St. Peter's Square turned tense. Every rustle of a newspaper felt like fresh scandal breaking. The Suburbicarian See of Albano carries enormous symbolic heft. Local clergy still reminisce about John the 23rd's weekend retreats there, and townsfolk claim its mineral springs can cure heartbreak. By accepting Albano, Provost grafted his name onto a lineage older than most nations, signaling to doubters that he was ready to govern, not merely manage, and that message rang like bells at dawn. In the Vatican, where politics clings to rituals the way incense clings to vestments, resentment can spark revolutions. As the conclave approached, bookmakers and embassy analysts drafted shortlists of papabili, and Provost's name rarely cracked the top 10. Critics scoffed at his meteoric ascent, 2022 to 2025, came from cappuccino chats with Francis rather than time-tested gravitas. An American papabile, unthinkable to cardinals who believed the fisherman's ring belonged on Italian fingers. Old world pedigree dominated every whispered conversation. Secretary of State Pietro Parolin, social justice firebrand Matteo Zuppi, Congolese conscience Fridolin Ambongo, lion-hearted patriarch Pier Battista Pizzaballa, Hungarian canon law oracle Peter Erdo, and towering above them Filipino superstar Luis Antonio Tagle. Tagle's homilies could make CEOs weep, yet a storm cloud followed him everywhere. For years, the Philippines reeled under President Rodrigo Duterte's grim anti-drug crusade. Midnight raids, cardboard corpses labeled dealer, and families drenched in grief. The world begged Tagle to roar. Instead, he whispered pastoral laments. Journalists blasted his holy hush as complicity. And when he finally condemned the carnage in 2017, critics cried, "Too late." That hesitation dimmed his once blinding star. With Tagle tarnished, Provost's American passport transformed from liability into asset, proof that Holy Mother Church could leap the Atlantic and address booming flocks in the New World. Even curial cynics grudgingly agreed a fresh profile might outshine old guard calculations. When the Sistine Chapel's bronze doors slammed shut on 7th May 2025, tension coiled tight as a violin string. 33 hours later, white smoke whooshed skyward, and a stunned world heard the name Robert Francis Provost, now Pope Leo XIV. Shock cracked into raucous jubilation. Choirs burst into impromptu Ave Maria, pilgrims live-streamed tears, and taxi horns blared like Jericho's trumpets. Yet inside the chapel, Leo lingered beneath Michelangelo's Last Judgment, tracing centuries-old brushstrokes with moist eyes. Instead of sprinting to the balcony, he ambled among stagehands, Swiss guards, and a wide-eyed novitiate courier, an unscripted act of tenderness that broadcast humility to billions. The hush that followed felt symphonic. Reporters pressed recorders against marble, hoping to capture any syllable, but Leo offered only a gentle nod, and the silence roared louder than words. None sobbed freely. Cynical correspondents admitted goosebumps. Marble statues seemed to lean forward. Many called this the moment the world accepted him, because vulnerability sometimes speaks more powerfully than trumpets. Reverence pivoted to responsibility less than 12 hours later. At dawn, Leo celebrated his first papal mass before the College of Cardinals, warning against a creeping eclipse of faith that turns vibrant communities into spectral museums, yet promising the church would remain a lighthouse that scatters even the blackest night. Moments after, he stepped onto the balcony for the Urbi et Orbi blessing. He began softly, "Peace be with all of you," then thundered, "Evil will not prevail, we are in the hands of God." The crowd erupted, even as some listeners, especially in LGBTQIA circles, wondered what storms those words might forecast. Progressive blogs prayed Leo would widen Francis's inclusive circle. Conservative influencers cheered a rumored crackdown on woke relativism. Rumors resurfaced about Leo's personal rigor, some insisting his friendship with Francis meant openness, others describing him as a doctrinal Iron Man. Hashtags #1, Leo Shock, and #1 Pope from Chicago trended for days, fueling fierce debates under neon avatars. Behind the scenes, the Swiss Guard rehearsed new protection protocols, mindful that an American Pope might attract both pilgrim adoration and geopolitical threats. Cyber units scanned multiple languages for chatter. Archivists hurried to digitize Leo's Chicago homilies before tabloids twisted them into clickbait. Even the Vatican museums pondered a special exhibit on American saints to harness fresh tourist streams. The conclave itself had unspooled like Shakespearean drama, wrapped in digital age secrecy. Electors surrendered phones, Wi-Fi was jammed, yet street vendors outside sold bingo cards featuring cardinal faces, and every puff of smoke triggered synchronized phone alerts worldwide. When Leo finally spoke English tinged with Italian vowels, Chicago pilgrims in the square waved bull scarves until gendarmes politely asked for decorum. For parish priests yearning for concrete signals, Leo's paperwork spoke volumes. His first motu proprio ordered every diocese to audit parish finances within 18 months, a nuclear option against embezzlement. Next came an apostolic letter compelling bishops to host quarterly listening sessions with abuse survivors. No excuses. In mid-August, he greenlit a pilot plan allowing lay women voting rights in diocesan synods, thrilling reformers and rattling entrenched hierarchs. On social media, memes soon multiplied. One viral image pasted Leo onto a deep dish pizza under the caption, "Our Father who art in Chicago," while another portrayed him as Michael Jordan mid-dunk, clutching a monstrance instead of a basketball. Rather than bristle, the Vatican's comms team reposted the friendlier memes with prayer hand emojis, earning unexpected goodwill from Gen Z Catholics who often complain about boomer liturgy. Progressive hopes and traditional fears finally collided on 22nd July 2025 during a Vatican radio interview. Leo, calm but steely, declared that the sacramental covenant as guarded by the church remains between one man and one woman. Full stop. Thunder clapped far beyond the Leonine walls. Bishops in Poland rang bells in triumph. Activists in San Francisco unfurled protest banners. Catholic Twitter fractured into alleluias and anguished emojis. Supporters hailed him as a bulwark against secular erosion, while critics warned that marginalized souls might drift even farther from the pews. So, did the College of Cardinals crown a visionary or unleash a tempest? Did Francis's mentorship tilt the scales, or did Providence simply demand a shepherd who bench presses both barbells and burdens? Dive into the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for every sizzling twist, because with Leo at the helm, each sunrise over the Tiber promises another jolt of spiritual electricity.